Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining me. A little bit late today, the internet went off, but it's back on now. Guys, I'm going to do a video later about Ukraine and the updates on what's happening there, because that is the major story at the moment. But I think something's brewing, something's breaking in Georgia. What's happening at the moment is in Georgia, they've passed a new law, which is called the Foreign Agents Bill. It basically sounds to me like Georgia is pushing their country closer towards Putin and Russia. Now, the protests have broke out because the people of Georgia want to be more European. You can go and look at the the images of the people protesting. They're draped in European Union flags, and again, this is what we saw in Ukraine 2013. Basically, people didn't want to be Russian. They wanted to be more European. They were looking at places like Czechoslovakia, and they were saying, look, they've got a better quality of life. And then they were looking at people in Russia, in the oblast areas, and they were thinking, no, you know what, I want a better life for my children, so we want more European stuff. Now, what's happening in Georgia really does, it has that essence of it to me of what happened in Ukraine, the Euromaidan revolution. So what I think is going to be really interesting to watch over the next couple of days is how Russia reacts. Don't forget when the Maidan revolutions happened, the little green men went into Crimea and annexed Crimea, and the Russians said it wasn't them, they don't know who it was, and I think that was my wake-up call really to how stupid like the press are, and they are, guys. All right, here you have a whole brigades of military units, military trucks speaking Russian. They drove into Crimea. Russia said, well, Putin said, no, we have no regular troops. We have no regular troops in Crimea. Of course not. They're special forces. So and the whole of the press is saying, oh well, who are they? Who are these people? Who could they be? I'm like, guys, if it looks like if it looks like a Russian soldier, speaks like a Russian soldier, dressed like a Russian soldier, acts like a Russian soldier, it's probably a Russian soldier. Now, the interesting part here with this Georgia not a conflict, with these Georgia protests are, does Putin have enough troops to go and open up a second front? Does Putin have enough manpower now to go and push into there? I don't know that he does. Remember his victory parade. He usually has, thousands of troops, loads of tanks, all that sort of stuff. But the reality is, I don't think he has the manpower to stretch himself onto two war fronts now. And again, there's going to be people out there saying that this is a US staged coup, that it's a European staged coup. It doesn't matter what it is. Only the perception of what it is matters. So we're perceiving this at the moment in the West as as a pro-liberty, pro-European movement. And in Russia, they'll be reporting on this, no doubt, as, European hijackers have moved in and they're trying to overthrow the government in Georgia, in Tbilisi. So they're the two kind of, it's the same coin. It's exactly the same stuff happening. There's no change on the stuff that's happening. It's just the reporting's different on it from either side. And depending on which side of that spectrum you're on, depends on which side of the coin you look at. So it's going to be really interesting to see how things develop there and how things move forward. Also, guys, I'm going to do a more detailed video on Ukraine later on today once I've spoken to my contacts. But what I think is really interesting as well is, if you remember from yesterday's videos on here, and I think I did one on the other platform, I spoke quite in depth about Antarctica and the amount of oil that's just been found. Now, it's really interesting that last night, Putin's come out and he said that they're he's instructing a new, I don't know what they call it in Russia, like a new shipbuilding minister or something. I know that's wrong, guys. I know that's wrong. I know they don't have ministers in Russia, but you know what I mean. He's appointed a new guy to start building ships. So Those of you who've been watching some of my videos, you know, I don't think naval warfare is going to be a thing anymore. What you're going to see is asymmetric naval warfare, in the sense that you're going to have attacks that come from civilian ships. You using these storage containers. There's a few companies that make them now. The top lifts up, missiles fly out of these storage containers, go hit where they want, and then as a nation, you're like, right, okay, who fired that? And then what do? You go sink a civilian ship and kill civilians. It's just a nightmare, guys. The lessons learned from the ground invasions of Afghanistan and the ground invasions of Iraq, where you're fighting asymmetric, you're fighting an enemy in civilian clothes with limited resources, limited power. That's kind of the way forwards that we're going to go with this asymmetric naval warfare. Again, nobody's talking about asymmetric naval warfare at all. Only me, guys. So that's what I think is going to happen there. So why is Putin building ships, do you ask? Oh, well, I'm going to tell you. I think they're building more ships to carry the oil that they're going to take from Antarctica. And it's, you know, and I know what people are saying. Oh, but there's treaties, there's, you know, there's bans on mining and all this sort of stuff. Yes, I agree. And also I want to point out that those treaties are up for renewal in 2048, I believe. Sounds like it's a long way away. It's not. Now, what are you going to do if you were Russia, backed by China, potentially backed by India, potentially backed by Turkey? You know, who's going to enforce these treaties? Nobody's going to enforce these treaties. It's going to be very difficult for people to enforce them. So what are you going to do? What will people do? Will they write a letter to Putin and ask him to stop drilling when Putin's taking billions and billions of barrels of oil and making his economy rich, fueling his war machine? Absolutely not. He's not going to listen to that. You're going to have to go down there by force, and you're going to have, you know, a naval war down there. And that's where I feel we're heading, and that's why I feel he's building, you know, Russians are building more ships. I feel they're going to be I feel they're going to be, you know, oil tankers. Let's not forget that Putin runs the biggest fleet of, I think, non-compliant oil tankers or something. It's basically his black fleet. When all these oil sanctions came on Russian oil, one of the ways around it that Putin did is, and again, there's always ways around these sanctions, and you know, us in the West with our red tape and our bureaucracy, it's very difficult for us to do anything because it takes us so long to do stuff. We all have to agree as a bloc. Then we put rules and regulations on it, and anything outside those rules and regulations, we have bureaucrats saying, oh no, you can't do that because it's not part of the regulation. Where Putin just goes, yes, of course, build more ships. And more ships are built. So what basically the Russians have done to get around the sanctions, they have their own fleet of oil tankers now. I don't think they're registered anywhere. They're certainly not insured. They don't have any other red tape that, you know, other shipping companies have. And Russia can basically export their oil to anywhere in the world that wants it. Namely China, who is buying a lot of Russian oil at the moment, and because because Russia don't have to pay these premiums, red tape, they don't have to pay taxes, they don't have to pay for insurance, they can still make a lot of money selling their oil. And again, who can stop him? How are you going to stop this? And it's all well and good people saying, oh, but there's legislation and guys. Legislation is only relevant if people respect it. If you're going to invade a country and send tanks and bombs and aircraft, you know, you're not going to respect other people's legislation. And and those people that say, oh, and it really grates me, you know, those people who say, oh, but Russia was provoked. Guys, if you're in a relationship with your partner, and there's an issue, you know, I'm not saying which way this is going to go, but if there's domestic violence, can you say to a judge, no, I was provoked, and the judge go, all right, yeah, guys, they were provoked, right, that's absolutely fine. No, That's not how the world is. You can't just send tanks and stuff in because you claim you were provoked. What does provoking mean? It's very difficult to, and provoke is one of those words that you can kind of give it context to anything, My daughter provokes me when she asks for ice cream and she knows there isn't any in. What's my response? Do you know what I mean, guys? There's lots of ways. It's one of those words, provoke. It kind of like, it can have a lot of meanings, some benign and some, extreme meanings. But the reality is, the Ukrainian people, Euromaidan, they wanted a better life for themselves. So they were seeing Viktor Yanukovych. They were seeing guys, go and look at some of the things online when people went into Yanukovych's house. He was absolutely wild. He'd gone drunk on power. Go and look at that, guys. That's a different story. But bring us full circle to the beginning of this video, guys. What I see happening now in Georgia really echoes what happened in 2013 in Ukraine, and I feel we could be on the early stages of a revolution in Georgia. The next thing will be, how is Putin going to react? This could bring us closer to nuclear weapons being used, because when the Russians are running out of men and they don't have anything left, they're going to start bringing out the big guns. Because I personally, if you've got to understand Russian mentality, you've got to understand the culture. If you don't understand the culture, you're not going to understand anything. But can you see, sat there at home, laid on your bed, whatever you're doing, can you see right now the Russians saying, right guys, yeah, sorry, my bad, we'll bring all those troops out, yeah, sorry, we got this, sorry, my fault. No, it's not going to happen. If you understand that, what are the other options that lead to this? And I feel the more that these other conflicts open and Russia has to deploy their troops more sparingly, then we see the risk of the battlefield nuclear weapon. The likelihoods of that being used are obviously increased. But anyway, guys, I've waffled on for 12 minutes now. Don't forget to like and follow and share this on your socials if you can, guys. I only have this one and our other one. So I'll see you later for a Ukraine update.